episode 35 of the Fit Pro podcast.
If you want to be an online coach, that is excellent, but you need to build up career capital before you can be a successful online coach.
Welcome back to the Fit Pro podcast, listeners. I'm your host, Marvin Fayers, and today's episode 35, is a continuation of our interview with Laurin Conlin. And if you haven't checked out part 1 yet, I will leave a link in the show notes below. And just wanted to say a few words. I am actually looking for a new logo for the Fit Pro podcast. I'm looking for some talent to design me a new logo. If you have some talent, or if you know some talent, send me a link or send me a DM, or just at me on Twitter at FitPro Podcast, and get at me. I'm willing to pay money for this, and I definitely want to spice up the logo. This last logo, fun fact, was thrown together within 4 hours by myself. So if you can do better, let me know, and your artwork can be the face of the FitPro Podcast. That being said, let's get into today's episode. Again, if you have not, make sure you head back to part 1. I think it's what episode is this? 35. It's episode 33 with Laurin Conlin. But I'll leave a link in the show notes below. And enjoy this episode. I will talk to you at the end. Peace. Yeah, it's definitely not the end of the world if you lose. And if I find when you're working on something that's your passion, so the girls that do this and the guys that do this, it's their passion. They want to become professionals in it. It hits a point where it becomes fun. Again, I don't think professional basketball players play basketball and make millions of dollars, and it's not fun to them to do it every single day. That's all they do. They must love what they do.
Yes.
Now, as a professional, so you've turned pro. What sort of opportunities come your way once you go pro?
So the opportunities, it's less about, having your pro status is very important. As far as sponsorship opportunities, that can really vary based on what the company is looking for. So when I turned pro, nobody was banging down my door for anything. It wasn't like, oh my god, I turned pro, like everyone wants to work with me. That wasn't necessarily the case. Now, I know a lot of people who have never turned pro, and have actually never even done well at a show, who have a lot of high-level sponsors and who make their money and their livelihood off of that. Then I also know a lot of top-level competitors who have regular day jobs and don't really seek out sponsorships, and nobody really knows who they are, quote unquote, right? So it really kind of depends. So a lot of companies now are looking more for the following, more for the interaction and how, people can relate to you. So turning pro doesn't necessarily open all those opportunities, but it indirectly helps. So as a coach, having an IFBB pro card and me going through the process helps, right? And it gives me kind of that credibility. Not to say that anybody who doesn't have a pro card isn't credible. Absolutely not saying that. But it is something else that I can add, right? And I think just having competed a lot, it gives you that credibility and kind of opens those doors as far as the empathy and understanding, and actually have gone through it myself. But as far as like direct things that, I turned pro and I got this, no, it's all been indirect, and it's all been a combination of my experience and following and interacting with people. So I think that's a really big misconception, that people think that you either have to be pro to get sponsored, or that when you do turn pro, all these things are going to happen. And they don't. Maybe that was just me. I don't know. But I don't. I think there's a lot more to it nowadays than that, because there's a lot of other platforms to be a fitness entrepreneur or fitness person in the industry.
Fitpreneur.
Yeah, fitpreneur. I like that.
We make up words on the show. That's fine.
Okay, perfect.
So look, moving on, Laurin. Actually, just one more wild card question about bodybuilding. Do you watch the Olympia?
Yes, I've been the past few years, I think. And if I haven't been, I've watched the little live stream thing.
Okay, so who's winning this year in the men's overall bodybuilding?
Oh, okay. So you want like a real feedback?
Yeah,
I'm
real.
not sure. It's really I don't follow the men as closely.
Mm-hmm.
I do like men's bodybuilding though. So I think if Phil comes in on point, he's really hard to beat, to be honest. If he doesn't come in on point, like last year, I thought that he maybe was a little bit not as sharp. But
Yeah.
I'm always like Team Kai. So
I'm Team Kai too.
I would love if he would compete, but I don't think he's competing.
Well, because last year, he wasn't allowed to, and then this year he sort of vetoed it all. Yeah, I think it's very controversial because he is obviously at the peak of what he like. You see pictures of him now, and you're like, dude, you could step on stage today. Like, what are you doing? So but he's so smart. There's got to be something else going on. He was actually in Perth the last weekend.
Oh, cool.
I was supposed to go see him, but I had other plans, unfortunately. Now, moving forward with everything, so you've got your online consulting business as well, LocoFit. What makes you different to the thousands of other consulting online trainers?
Yes, there are so many, and there are a lot of really great coaches, and there's a lot of less optimal coaches. We'll use that word again, less optimal. But there are, a lot of bad coaches, but there has been a surge of really awesome coaches. I think the things that I bring that are different is that I bring a combination of application and science and my own experience. So like I said, I coach, I'd say 98% females. I have a male or two clients sprinkled in every once in a while. So I can really bring the female perspective as far as that understanding, kind of what's going on. There's a lot of things emotionally that females deal with when they are prepping or just, in an off season in general that I feel like I can relate to, and that people can open up better, I think. So I can offer a lot of personal experience. I do have the science background, but a lot of it is mostly just kind of bringing what I understand and applying it. And every client is different. You know what I mean? You have to work with a volume of clients to kind of understand that. And taking that personal approach, there are things that are just not set in stone, but just kind of guidelines that I always use for everyone. But then after that, everything is tweaked and personalized. So what makes me different, I think, is a combination of all of that, and I really care about my clients, so that's important, and I'm always very honest. I think that is something that can be lacking in the industry at some points. Like, I'll tell people, they'll reach out to me, and I'm like, no, I won't prep you for this show unless we work together for at least 3 months off season, because I don't think that you're ready or in a good place. So I'm always very honest and very upfront with people. And I think that also helps. Some people, I think, can be maybe too like, yeah, I'll take you on, and promise kind of the world, and I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to promise you the world. If you come to me, and I'm very realistic with kind of a timeline, of course that timeline can change, everyone responds differently, but I'm going to say, okay, we need at least XYZ time off, and then I'm thinking we'll need at least this much time to prep. Again, I think being honest is more important than kind of coddling or hand-holding in some aspects. So that would be what makes me different, I think.
Oh, perfect. And is somebody making breakfast in the background? Because I would love some.
Oh, yes. My boyfriend just got up and making breakfast.
Well, make me hungry. I'm supposed to be sleeping soon. You're making me hungry.
Yeah, I was like, you're going to sleep soon. What are you... Breakfast for dinner.
Breakfast for dinner. I'll just, not eat breakfast tomorrow morning. But look, that being said, let's talk about the flexible aspect of things, because I know, obviously, I used to be a personal trainer. I've been down to those low body fat percentages. I know how to manipulate my own body weight and my client's body weight. Now, there's obviously more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to nutrition. And flexibility is obviously key. But what is your outlook on, say, I don't eat breakfast. I really don't eat breakfast. Is that gonna make me less successful on stage, or make me get less results?
Yes.
What is your
So
go for it.
The first thing always is consistency and adherence. Number one. There is no other thing that is more important than consistency and adherence. So no matter what I say, if someone says, oh, well, I don't like that, and I say, no, you got to do this, they may do it for a few weeks, and they're probably going to hate it, but they'll probably suck it up and do it. but that's not going to be long-term success. And there's always going to be some kind of resentment and unhappiness. Whereas if someone says, listen, I don't have time to eat breakfast and I really don't like it, and I'll say, okay, well, I think it might be optimal to have at least a protein bolus. So maybe just have a protein shake and head out the door, right?
Yeah.
And if they say, no, this makes me sick, then what am I going to say? Oh, force feed yourself? Of course not. If you are competing and you're trying to optimize everything, I would say yes, I think it's important to have at least protein in the morning. But if you are a general population client or somebody who's in the off season and it's just more about calories, no, I don't think it's going to totally ruin your day as long as everything else is in place, right?
Yeah.
So there's always a hierarchy of needs, hierarchy of importance, and I think everything can be important, but I do think that sometimes people can take things out of control. So I think that, yes, having protein in the morning, I think having breakfast is important. I fast for a little bit, not as much during prep just because I get really hungry. But in the off season, I will try to fast for a little bit just because I feel good when I do it. I'll wake up, I'll have my coffee, I'll maybe work for an hour or two, and then I'll have breakfast. When I'm prepping, that's usually not going to happen. I can usually wait about an hour, and then I make breakfast. And that's what works for me. There's some people who go several hours and don't eat. There's some people who wake up right away and have to eat. So it's all about what you're going to adhere to and what you're going to be consistent with. But like I said, caveat, if you are prepping, I would at least try to get a protein shake in just because of, protein and muscle protein synthesis. And if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty details, that may or may not matter, but I think they could have a small effect.
Perfect answer. Now, for example, I do intermittent fasting.
Mm-hmm.
So you obviously know what that is. You're a scientist, all right? Now, generally, I don't really train in the morning. I only train after work. But if I do have to eat in the morning, or if I do have to have something, it's usually coffee. I can't go a morning without coffee. And I'll mix, well, of course not. What are you talking about? I always mix in like MCT oil into my coffee. So I make like bulletproof coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because I did a ketogenic phase in my life where I did that for about 3 years. Hated it, but anyway. I don't know why I did it for that long, but it just agreed with my lifestyle at the time. Now, that's sort of the leftovers from that, but I've sort of integrated that with intermittent fasting, and I sort of do get my calories in, and I do get protein. Protein's usually my first meal when I do have a meal, but yeah, I'm not looking to get on stage. I'm looking to obviously look healthy and fit, and I generally get all my calories in. Is that okay for me?
Yes, I think that is super appropriate. I know a lot of people actually who do that. Mostly people who do keto do that. And I know a lot of people who do keto, and I think it's great. I think there's lots of implications for keto. But most of the people that I know, yes, wake up and they either do the coffee with the MCT oil or the coffee with the butter or the heavy cream. And then they use that. And I like I said, I do that when I'm off season also. I will typically, and I don't like to say that I do intermittent fasting because then everybody asks you like, what's your window and what's this? And no. I just don't eat first thing in the morning. That's kind of what I do. And then I don't eat right before bed. That's my fasting window. But so for me, a lot of time, I know Quest Nutrition actually came out with coconut oil and MCT oil powders. So usually what I would do off season is I would have coffee and then I'd put a scoop of that in there, and it's, several grams of fat, and then I would just work a little bit, and then I'd eat breakfast whenever I felt hungry, and that worked excellent for me. And like I said, during prep, I find that I can't do that just because I'm just a lot hungrier and I just don't feel as, stable. So I eat first thing in the morning, but not first thing, usually about an hour after. But I think that is super fine for you or anyone who has similar goals like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there'd be anything to support that is wrong or not optimal. And I say go for it. If that's what you like, that's what you enjoy, and you're consistent with that, then by all means do it. And anyone listening who has similar goals and feels the same way about breakfast in the morning, then I would go for that too.
Awesome. And I'm just playing a guessing game here, but is that an omelet? What is it?
Oh, yes. I should probably move, right?
No, it's really relaxing.
So yeah, my boyfriend is somebody who wakes up and has to eat immediately upon waking up. So everyone's a little different, and it usually works out because I'll wake up earlier on most days, and then we can kind of eat breakfast together. But when I'm off season and I don't eat breakfast till like 11, he's like, "What are you doing? This is so weird." But yeah, so everyone's a little different. And if I told him to not eat for 2 hours, he would be like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible." So everyone's different. You have to like cater to that. So if somebody asks me, is it okay to do this? Of course it's okay. Are you going to stick to it and do you enjoy it? Yes. And it's 100%. Not harmful. Yes.
Yeah. Cool. So we've only got about 10 minutes left. So let's sort of try and wrap this up. Now, when it comes to your consulting and your business, what sort of advice can you give to someone that wants to do what you're doing, that wants to start an online consulting business?
Mm-hmm. All right. So like I mentioned in the beginning, I had developed the business for about 2 years before I really considered it a full-time gig, right? I actually started it because my first ever client approached me and was like, "I want you to coach me." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No way." And she's like, "Yes, like you're really smart. Like I think you could do this really well. Like I'll pay you for it." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess we'll just start," right? She was my first client, and then I got another client that we both knew from that, and then I had another one, and then somebody at the gym, and very small, very, very small group. We didn't even have an LLC, like it was super, tiny. Then after I turned pro, I made the official Logo Fit LLC. I got the website, which really isn't that fancy. It's just kind of like an online business card. But, got the website. I started doing it a little bit more, I would say, not legit, but more serious. And that's when I started implementing all of the, things that I do, like liability release. How am I going to do update forms? Refining the client questionnaire when they reach out to me, things like that. And I started very small, "Oh, I got a client today," or "Oh my gosh, I got an inquiry," and that was really exciting. And I kept it very small during school. And then also, at the time I was doing the research too. So that was, like I said, indirectly taking on clients, even though they, were not real clients or paying me. It was a whole different system, but learning from that many people. So I really started it small, kept it small, refined everything, and then kind of jumped in full bore. I read a book, and I'll talk about this on every podcast that I do. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. Excellent book. Anyone who's listening, I would highly suggest it. And it really talks about building career capital. A lot of people, I find the biggest mistake they make is that they say, "Oh, I'm really passionate about this. I'm just going to quit my job and do this." And they have no real expertise, no groundwork laid, nothing. If you want to be an online coach, that is excellent, but you need to build up career capital before you can be a successful online coach. It doesn't just happen overnight. I mean, it could, but again, good, bad, optimal, suboptimal. If you want to be a great coach, you need to have, a lot of systems in place, and you need to kind of start small and understand that. So I would really encourage everyone to, start things small, build up your career capital by either learning from someone, having a mentor, that's super important, reading everything that you can, whether it's business related, science related, or just psychology related. I'm more of a psychologist than I am an exercise scientist. So, really kind of challenging yourself to learn different, aspects of a business, which is, for coaching, it's understanding science, understanding nutrition, understanding training, but it's also understanding psychology, and it's also understanding business. So having all those things in place before you say, "Oh, I'm an online coach full time, and buy my plans," you have to have something that gives you credibility. So whether that's being a competitor and doing well, whether that's putting out great content through articles or videos or just posts on social media, you need to have something before people are going to respect you as a coach. So Perfect. Hopefully that kind of made sense. And definitely look at that book. I would suggest anyone to read that book.
I will put a link in the show notes for that.
Shout out to Cal.
Get the shout out in there.
She's listening, which is obviously not, but
you never know. You never know these things, right? So career capital. is very, very important in your mind, and that's awesome. Look, we've had a great time chatting today, and we definitely have to do it again. I feel like we need more time. We need a lot more time to have a long-ass conversation. I think there's a lot more things you can teach us. Now, if the listeners want to have a further conversation with you, where can they find you on your social and your website and anything you want to give up?
All right, so I have a small but decent YouTube channel. I do more of the educational type videos versus like a daily vlog. Not really my style, but so it's just my name, Laurin Conlin. All of my social media is just at Laurin Conlin. So Instagram, Snapchat, kind of fallen off Twitter, but I do have a Twitter. And then my Facebook page is just Laurin Conlin, IFBB Pro. I'm also going to be starting in the next few weeks a food vlog YouTube channel. So all things food related. I'm a huge foodie, and there is a big outreach from clients and just people in general always asking me about food. So we kind of came up with, why don't we start filming this? So I'm going to be starting that in the next few weeks, and I will definitely be posting that on my channels.
Yeah, perfect. And quick review of one of your videos. I actually watched it before this. The one where you were food shopping at
yes.
Foods.
Yes.
It is great to see some factual shit finally.
Oh.
Like, versus there's only so many videos on YouTube you can watch of girls with half their clothes on taking pictures. Like, there's only so many, and it is very refreshing to see somebody that knows what they're talking about and teaching people. So that is awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool video. I was down with my sponsors, Blackstone Labs and Boca, and we just finished some training footage, and then the videographer was like, hey, do you want to do like a food video? Like, I want somebody to do a food video. And I'm like, oh, I'm perfect for that. I love food. So
I'm down.
I was like, let's just go, and we didn't really know what we were doing, so I just kind of just went to different food groups and just started talking about it, and I got a really good response. So I'll probably try to do more with them, kind of collaborations, food stuff, or maybe like a, here is exactly what I would eat in a day, or whatever. But I'm glad you found that helpful.
Yeah, awesome. It was really good, really, really good. So I've been doing this podcast for a while now, and I still don't know how to sign a podcast off. I'm really bad at saying goodbye and just I don't have a sign off. I don't have like you stay sunny San Diego or something. I don't have anything. How do you close out your videos that you do on YouTube?
Oh, I don't have one either. I just kind of awkwardly am like, I hope this helps, and I hope you guys have a great week. Like.
End record.
Yeah.
Done. But I just wanted to thank all the listeners real quick for tuning in today and listening to Laurin and her story. I feel like we're going to do it again another day. Laurin, thanks for coming on.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Here's my exit. But no, really, thank you, Marvin, for having me, and I'd love to do it again in the future.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Laurin, and thanks to all the listeners today. And that's us. We're done. Peace. That was episode 35 of the Fit Pro Podcast. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, make sure you head to fitpropodcast.com, head to Twitter at FitProPodcast, give us a tweet, give us a follow, and I will get back to every single person that tweets me. That is my goal. The next episode of the Fit Pro Podcast will be I think it's a summary. It is a summary already. We've come to the end of another month. It's been a big month. We've done more episodes than we've ever done this month. And Laurin Conlin's interview is one of the fastest downloaded episodes I've ever had on the show. So if you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you head back to part 1. Link in the show notes below. And that is all we have time for today, listeners. This is the Fit Pro Podcast, and I am out. Peace.